Emergency double help require ASAP. Alex had always been a person of routine. Every morning, they woke up before the sun, stretched for a few minutes, and brewed a cup of coffee, savoring the warm aroma as it filled the kitchen. Living alone in a small apartment in the city gave Alex a sense of freedom, but it also meant that their days were often predictable. They liked it that way. There was comfort in knowing what the day would bring, even if it was just the usual work schedule and occasional meetings with friends. On this particular morning, the city was unusually quiet. The streets, usually buzzing with cars, cyclists, and pedestrians, were calm. Alex could hear the distant hum of a bus and the faint chirping of birds, a sound that often went unnoticed amid the city noise. It was the kind of morning that made Alex feel calm and reflective. They stood by the window, sipping their coffee and watching the sunlight slowly spill across the buildings, casting long shadows. There was a certain beauty in the ordinary, Alex thought, something peaceful in knowing that life, with all its routines, could still surprise a person. After finishing the coffee, Alex quickly got ready for work. They dressed in neat, comfortable clothes and packed their bag with everything they might need for the day. Laptop, notebooks, a water bottle, and a small lunch they had prepared the night before. Before leaving, Alex double-checked the apartment. Windows closed, lights off, keys in the bag. Every small action felt like a piece of a puzzle, a part of the careful routine they had built over the years. Leaving the apartment, Alex locked the door and headed down the stairwell, exchanging polite nods with the neighbor on the way out. The walk to the train station was brisk. The cold air stung the cheeks, and the gentle breeze played with the loose strands of hair that had escaped from Alex's ponytail. People were beginning to appear on the streets, walking their dogs, carrying briefcases, or hurrying to catch buses. Alex felt a familiar sense of comfort in these small interactions, the way strangers could exist side by side in a shared rhythm without ever really knowing each other. Life was predictable, yes, but it was also comforting in its simplicity. At the train station, Alex bought a ticket and found a spot on the platform. Trains came and went with mechanical regularity, their rumble shaking the ground beneath Alex's feet. They watched the passengers step on and off the trains, noticing little details. A mother holding her child's hand tightly, an elderly man carrying a bag of groceries, a teenager absorbed in the screen of a phone. Each person had their own story, moving along the invisible lines that connected the city. Alex often wondered about these stories. Did anyone notice the small acts of kindness that went unseen every day? Did anyone realize how fragile life could be? The train arrived with a familiar screech, and Alex stepped inside, finding a seat by the window. The carriage was sparsely populated at this early hour, and a calm settled over the space. Alex opened their notebook and began reviewing some work notes for the day. As they wrote, they felt a sense of satisfaction. The work was challenging but manageable, and Alex enjoyed the feeling of accomplishment that came with completing tasks and solving problems. Their mind wandered briefly, imagining a project that could make a difference, something bigger than the usual assignments, something meaningful. The thought made Alex smile, but then they quickly returned to the notes, focusing on the task at hand. The journey continued smoothly, and Alex found themselves lost in thought. They reflected on the little victories in life, the moments that went unnoticed but made a difference in shaping who they were. There was the time they helped a colleague with a difficult task, the morning they decided to take a different route to work and discovered a hidden park, or the countless evenings spent reading books and learning about new subjects. Life, Alex realized, was made up of these small, often overlooked moments. As the train neared the city center, Alex felt a subtle shift in the air. It wasn't loud or dramatic, just a small change in the rhythm of the day. People began speaking a little louder, a few glanced around nervously, and the train seemed to slow down for no apparent reason. Alex noticed it but didn't think much of it. Sometimes mornings felt different without a clear reason, and this was probably one of those days. Still, the feeling lingered like a shadow at the edge of awareness, a gentle warning that something unusual might be approaching. Reaching the office, Alex walked through the familiar glass doors and greeted the receptionist with a warm smile. The office was buzzing with activity. Phones rang, keyboards clacked, and the low hum of conversations filled the space. Alex took a deep breath, enjoying the energy of people working toward their goals. It was a productive environment, full of determination and focus. As they settled at their desk, organizing files and turning on the computer, Alex felt ready to tackle the day. There was a sense of purpose in the routine, a comfort in knowing what was expected and how to handle it. Emails began to arrive, each one bringing a small task or a message from a colleague. Alex responded with efficiency and care, ensuring every detail was correct. They enjoyed the precision and orderliness of the work, the way one could solve problems logically and see immediate results. Still, the earlier unease from the train lingered, a faint whisper at the back of Alex's mind. Life, they thought, could be calm and predictable, but it could also change in a single moment. By mid-morning, Alex decided to take a short break. Stepping out onto the office balcony, they felt the warmth of the sun on their face. The city below looked peaceful, almost as if it were holding its breath. Alex closed their eyes for a moment, letting the quiet wash over them, appreciating the calm before diving back into work. It was during this pause, standing there with the wind gently brushing their face, that Alex felt an instinctive tug, a sudden awareness that something was about to disrupt the ordinary rhythm of their day. Returning to the desk, Alex shook off the feeling, attributing it to overthinking or lack of sleep from the previous night. The tasks at hand demanded attention, and so they focused on the screen, typing away, solving problems and completing assignments. The hours passed in a blur of concentration, and the subtle unease began to fade. Yet, even as the routine continued, Alex couldn't entirely dismiss the feeling that the day was not going to end as calmly as it had begun. As lunchtime approached, Alex prepared to leave for the cafeteria. They grabbed their bag, tucked away the notebooks, and walked past colleagues who chatted about weekend plans and personal stories. The atmosphere was friendly, light, and ordinary. Everything seemed normal. But Alex's mind, always attentive to the small details, noticed a few unusual things. A colleague rushing unusually fast, the sound of a distant siren, and a phone notification that didn't belong to anyone near them. These were small, almost imperceptible signs, easily ignored, but for Alex, they planted the seed of curiosity and cautious awareness. Sitting down with lunch, Alex reflected quietly. Life had a strange way of balancing moments of peace with moments of unexpected challenge. They remembered past experiences where small decisions or brief pauses had led to meaningful outcomes. It was this awareness, this habit of noticing the ordinary and extraordinary in the same breath, that gave Alex a sense of preparedness, even for moments when the world shifted unexpectedly. Little did Alex know, the quiet, predictable morning was about to be replaced by a sudden emergency, one that would demand courage, quick thinking, and resilience. And as Alex finished their meal, the first subtle signs of that emergency began to appear. A phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. A low, urgent murmur came from the hallway outside. The sun shone brightly, but the shadows seemed deeper, and the city's usual rhythm felt slightly off. In that moment, Alex's life was still calm, still routine, but change was on the horizon, waiting to turn an ordinary day into a test of bravery and presence of mind. Alex had barely returned to their desk when the first real sign of trouble appeared. Their phone buzzed with a message that made their stomach tighten instantly. It was from an unknown number, and the words were short, urgent, and confusing. "Please come quickly. Something's wrong." "Help," Alex stared at the screen for a few seconds, their heart beginning to beat faster. They didn't recognize the number, but the desperation in the message was clear. There was no time to think, only a sudden, undeniable sense that something was happening, something serious. At first, Alex tried to calm themselves. Perhaps it was a mistake, a prank, or a misunderstanding. Yet, the sense of unease from the morning returned stronger than ever. Something in their gut told them that this was real. Alex's mind raced with possibilities. Could it be a friend, a family member, or a stranger in trouble? They quickly typed back, trying to sound calm. "Who is this? What's happening?" There was no immediate response, only a silence that seemed louder than any noise. The office around them continued as usual. Colleagues chatted, phones rang, and the hum of computers filled the air. To anyone else, everything seemed normal, but Alex could barely focus. Their thoughts were consumed by the message. The sense of urgency grew with every passing second. Something inside Alex pushed them to act. Waiting was not an option. Alex grabbed their bag, quickly locking the desk drawer, and moved toward the elevator. On the way down, they tried to think logically. Who could need help this badly? Where would they go first? The problem was that the message gave no clear location, no clues other than the word help. The uncertainty was terrifying. It was a helplessness they had never felt before, a feeling that everything could slip away in an instant if they didn't act fast. Stepping out of the building, the sunlight that had seemed so peaceful earlier now felt harsh, almost blinding. Alex paused for a moment, trying to take a deep breath. The city was alive with its usual sounds, cars honking, people talking, a bus roaring past, but it all seemed distant. The message was all Alex could think about, the unknown emergency pressing in on them from every direction. They decided to try calling the number, hoping to hear a voice, any voice that could tell them what was happening. The phone rang 3 times before someone finally answered. It was a young voice, trembling with fear. "Alex, thank goodness. I don't know what to do. Please, I need help." Alex could hear the panic in the person's voice, each word rushed, fragmented, desperate. Alex's mind sharpened instantly, moving into problem-solving mode. "Okay, I'm here. Stay calm. Tell me exactly where you are. I'll help you." The caller explained that they were trapped in a small alley not far from the office, near an older part of the city. Something had gone wrong and they couldn't get out. Alex tried to keep their voice calm and reassuring, but inside, fear and adrenaline were coursing through every vein. They quickly dialed emergency services, giving them the location and explaining the situation as clearly as possible. While waiting for instructions, Alex kept the caller on the phone, asking them to describe their surroundings, to stay in one spot, and not to panic. Time seemed to stretch endlessly. Every second felt like a minute, every minute like an hour. Alex rushed toward the street, scanning the surroundings for the alley the caller had described. People passed by, unaware of the urgency, some stopping briefly to glance at Alex with curiosity as they ran. The city, usually full of energy and rhythm, now seemed to slow down, as if it too were waiting for the emergency to unfold. As Alex approached the area, they saw signs that something was wrong. A few neighbors had gathered outside buildings, whispering to one another. A faint commotion could be heard down the alley, a sound of distress, a voice calling for help. Alex's pace quickened, but they kept reminding themselves to stay calm. Panic would only make things harder. They needed to think clearly, act efficiently, and get help to the person in trouble as soon as possible. Reaching the alley, Alex saw the figure of a young person crouched near a wall, visibly shaken. The sight made Alex's chest tighten. "It's okay, I'm here now," Alex said gently, trying to soothe both themselves and the caller. The young person looked up, tears in their eyes, relief mixed with fear. Thank you, I didn't know what to do," they whispered. Alex signaled for emergency services, explaining that they had reached the person and that immediate assistance was needed. While waiting for professional help, Alex tried to keep the young person calm. They asked simple questions, offered reassurance, and stayed close enough to provide support without invading personal space. The situation was delicate, but Alex's calm and focused presence helped the young person regain a small sense of control. It was a tense, fragile moment, each second filled with the uncertainty of what might happen next. The sound of sirens grew louder in the distance. Alex felt a wave of relief wash over them. Emergency responders arrived quickly, assessing the situation with practiced efficiency. Alex provided them with every detail, answering questions and explaining what had happened. Watching the professionals take over, Alex felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. The danger was not fully over, but help had arrived, and that alone made a difference. As the responders carefully guided the young person to safety, Alex stepped back, observing the coordinated efforts. The sense of urgency was still there, but the tension had shifted. The immediate danger had lessened, replaced by a controlled, organized response. Alex felt proud, but also deeply aware of how fragile safety could be, how quickly ordinary life could shift into a crisis. Even after the responders took control, Alex stayed nearby, ensuring that the young person was fully safe and that everything had been handled correctly. The adrenaline slowly faded, leaving behind a tired but focused mind. Alex's thoughts returned to the morning, to the calm that had existed just hours ago, now replaced by a reality that was unpredictable and intense. It was a stark reminder that life could change in an instant, that emergencies could strike anyone, anywhere. As the situation settled, Alex finally had a moment to reflect. They thought about the decisions they had made, the instinct to act, and the courage it had taken to face the unknown. It wasn't about heroism, they realized, but about presence, awareness, and willingness to step forward when someone needed help. These were the moments that define people, not by accolades or recognition, but by their choice to act in the face of fear and uncertainty. By the time Alex returned to the office, the city had returned to its usual rhythm, the sounds of traffic and chatter filling the air once more. Everything appeared normal, almost as if the emergency had never happened. But Alex knew better. They had experienced firsthand how quickly life could change, how fragile ordinary moments were, and how important it was to remain vigilant, calm, and ready to act when needed. Sitting back at their desk, Alex took a deep breath, their hands still shaking slightly from the adrenaline. They reviewed the events in their mind, replaying every detail, every decision, every moment of fear and courage. It had been a day that started with calm and routine, only to transform into a situation that demanded immediate action, focus, and courage. The lessons of the morning were clear. Life was unpredictable, emergencies could happen at any time, and even ordinary people could rise to extraordinary challenges when necessary. As they looked around the office, Alex noticed the subtle differences in how people moved, how they interacted, and how small details could go unnoticed until they became critical. Every passing second mattered, every choice could change an outcome, and every moment of attention could make a difference. Alex felt a deep sense of responsibility, not just for themselves, but for those around them. The experience had left an impression that would not fade easily, a memory of urgency, compassion, and the human ability to respond when needed most. By the end of the day, Alex returned home exhausted but filled with a strange satisfaction. The city lights glowed warmly outside the window, the sounds of evening drifting up from the streets below. Alex reflected on the day, knowing that nothing would ever feel quite as ordinary again. They had seen how quickly life could shift, how emergencies could appear without warning, and how courage and calm could make all the difference. It was a day that would stay with them forever, a day when ordinary life collided with extraordinary events, teaching lessons that could never be forgotten. After the emergency responders had left with the young person, Alex felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. They thought that perhaps the worst was over, but a small voice inside warned them that the day was far from finished. Something about the morning, the message, and the way events had unfolded left Alex uneasy. There was a sense that they needed to stay alert, that life might throw another challenge their way before the day ended. Alex returned to the office and tried to focus on work, but their mind kept drifting back to the incident. Every sound, every movement in the office seemed amplified. A dropped pen, a raised voice, even the phone ringing somewhere down the hall made Alex's heart beat a little faster. They realized that the adrenaline from the morning had not fully left their system, and that tension was keeping them alert, almost on edge. Suddenly, their phone rang. It was the same unknown number as before. Alex answered immediately, heart pounding. "Hello," they said. "Alex. I don't know what's happening. It's my friend now. They're in trouble too." The voice on the other end stammered, panic obvious in every word. Alex listened carefully, asking questions, trying to gather every detail they could. This time the location was less clear, a neighborhood unfamiliar to Alex, with narrow streets and confusing turns. The urgency in the voice left no time for hesitation. They knew they had to act fast. Without thinking twice, Alex grabbed their bag, pulled on a jacket, and left the office. Their footsteps were quick and purposeful as they raced toward the street. Traffic was heavier now, and the city felt different from the calm earlier. People were moving in all directions, some walking, some running, others absorbed in their phones. Alex barely noticed them. Their focus was entirely on finding the person in need. The city streets were a maze. Alex had only a general idea of the neighborhood from the caller's description. Narrow alleys, tall buildings, and unfamiliar turns made navigation difficult. They tried calling the person back, asking for landmarks, street names, and anything to guide them. The voice on the other end was shaky, giving fragmented information, which made the task even harder. Alex's mind raced, thinking of every possible way to reach the caller quickly and safely. As they moved through the streets, obstacles began to appear. A car was double parked, blocking a critical turn. A construction site had closed off a section of the road. Even pedestrians, unaware of the urgency, slowed Alex down by stepping into the path. Each small delay felt monumental. Every second that passed seemed like it could be the difference between safety and danger. Alex's heartbeat quickened, their mind focusing on solutions. They signaled drivers, asked pedestrians to step aside politely but urgently, and looked for alternative routes. Finally, Alex arrived at a confusing intersection where several narrow streets converged. The caller's voice came through the phone again, more panicked than before. "I don't know which way to go. I can't find my friend." Alex's stomach tightened. They realized that in emergencies, fear often made people disoriented, and guiding someone remotely required patience, calmness, and clarity. "Take a deep breath," Alex said, trying to steady both themselves and the caller. "Look for the red brick building on your left. I want you to stay there and don't move. I'm coming right to you, just keep talking to me. Can you do that?" "Yes, I think so, okay," the caller replied, their voice trembling. Alex hung up briefly to focus on navigating the streets, using every landmark they could recognize. Their legs moved quickly but carefully, avoiding puddles, uneven pavement, and crowded sidewalks. Every step felt like it carried immense weight. As they neared the area, Alex noticed another obstacle. A narrow alley, the only path that could lead to the caller's location, was partially blocked by debris from a recent delivery. Wooden crates and boxes created a makeshift barrier. Alex didn't hesitate. They assessed the safest way to climb over or move the boxes without getting hurt. Carefully, step by step, they managed to navigate the obstruction, their heart racing with a mix of fear and determination. Finally, Alex saw the caller. They were standing near the red brick building, shaking but still conscious. Relief washed over Alex, but they didn't let it distract them. They approached calmly, ensuring the caller felt safe and reassured. "I'm here now. Stay close to me and everything will be okay," Alex said softly. The caller's grip on the phone tightened and their breathing slowed slightly. But the situation was not yet resolved. The caller's friend, the person in danger, was still missing. Alex had to act quickly, using every piece of information they could gather. They asked the caller to describe the surroundings again, to remember any distinguishing features, and to point out sounds or movements nearby. The caller mentioned a faint voice coming from a narrow stairway behind the building. Alex's instincts told them this was where they needed to go. Moving cautiously, Alex approached the stairway. It was steep and poorly lit, with uneven steps. They could hear the faint sound of distress from below, confirming that they were heading in the right direction. Their pulse quickened, but they forced themselves to remain calm. Panic would not help anyone. Step by step they descended, carefully avoiding loose stones and debris. At the bottom of the stairs, Alex finally saw the friend. They were trapped between some boxes and a low wall, struggling to free themselves. Relief and concern mixed in Alex's mind. "I've got you," Alex said, kneeling beside them and assessing the situation. With careful movements, they helped the person stand and guided them to a safer spot. The friend was frightened but unharmed, their gratitude evident in every word and gesture. Just as Alex was about to lead them out, they heard the distant wail of sirens. Emergency responders were on their way, and Alex felt a small surge of hope. They kept the caller and their friend close, explaining that help was coming. Every second was critical, but the presence of professional assistance made the situation feel more manageable. Alex stayed alert, scanning the area for any further danger while reassuring both individuals that they were safe. When the emergency responders arrived, Alex provided a full explanation of what had happened, where the people had been located, and any details that could help. Watching the professionals take over, Alex felt a mix of exhaustion and pride. They had acted quickly, calmly, and effectively, navigating obstacles, guiding frightened individuals, and ensuring safety. The situation was tense, but it had been managed successfully. After the responders confirmed that everyone was safe, Alex finally allowed themselves to take a deep breath. Their legs felt heavy, their mind buzzing with adrenaline, but the relief was overwhelming. The city, once again, seemed to settle into its usual rhythm. People walked past, cars moved steadily, and life continued, unaware of the intense moments that had just passed in these narrow streets. As Alex walked back toward the main road, they reflected on the experience. The morning had begun with a sense of calm, a predictable routine, but it had quickly transformed into a test of courage, quick thinking, and resilience. Every obstacle, every delay, every moment of fear had been a challenge to overcome, and Alex had faced them all. They realized that emergencies could happen to anyone at any time, and that staying calm, alert, and determined was the key to navigating them. Returning to the office, Alex's body ached, but their mind was sharper than ever. They felt a deep sense of satisfaction, not from recognition or praise, but from knowing that they had made a difference, that their presence and actions had helped someone in urgent need. The experience had left an impression, a memory of fear, determination, and the strength of ordinary people rising to extraordinary challenges. By the time the workday ended, Alex walked home slowly, reflecting on the day's events. The sun was setting, casting a warm, golden glow across the city. The streets were busy but not overwhelming, the sounds of evening familiar and comforting. Alex thought about the young person, their friend, and the courage it had taken for all of them to remain calm under pressure. They also thought about themselves, about how instinct, empathy, and determination had guided their actions. As they reached their apartment, Alex paused for a moment, looking out at the city skyline. The day had begun like any other, but it had become a story of urgency, resilience, and human connection. They realized that life could change in a single moment, and that ordinary people were capable of extraordinary acts when it mattered most. The memories of the morning and afternoon would remain, a reminder of the unpredictability of life and the importance of courage, calm, and presence of mind. Sitting down with a cup of tea, Alex let the tension slowly melt away. The city lights twinkled outside, a silent witness to the day's events. They knew the evening would be quiet, a time to rest, reflect, and prepare for whatever might come next. Yet even in the calm, a part of Alex remained alert, aware that life was full of surprises, both good and challenging, and that the strength to face them came from staying focused, compassionate, and brave. Alex had spent the better part of the afternoon assisting the two young people, helping them navigate the streets and ensuring they were safe, until emergency responders arrived. By now the sun was low, casting long shadows across the city streets, and the golden light of evening gave everything a warm, calming glow. Alex felt exhausted, yet alert. They knew that even though the immediate danger seemed to be over, the situation wasn't completely resolved. There was still the question of what had caused the emergencies in the first place, and whether anyone else might still be at risk. As the responders led the two young people to a nearby safe zone, Alex watched carefully, making sure they didn't panic or attempt to leave the area on their own. The responders were efficient, calm, and professional, moving with a sense of purpose that immediately eased some of the tension. Alex could see that their quick actions had made the process smoother, giving the responders a head start and helping prevent further complications. Once the situation was stable, Alex finally allowed themselves a moment to pause. They sat on a nearby bench, breathing in the crisp evening air, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. Their mind replayed the events, the sudden message, the racing through the streets, navigating obstacles and guiding the frightened individuals. Every decision, every small action had mattered. They felt a deep sense of accomplishment, but also the weight of the day's intensity pressing down on them. Just as Alex was beginning to relax, their phone buzzed again. It was a text from the first young person they had helped. "Thank you so much, Alex. We're safe now. I don't know what we would have done without you." Alex smiled softly, feeling a warmth that came from knowing they had truly helped someone in need. But the text also reminded them that while this incident was over, emergencies could happen again at any moment. Life was unpredictable and preparedness was always important. The responders finished their work and thanked Alex for their help. "You did a great job staying calm and guiding them," one of them said. Not everyone could handle a situation like this so effectively. Alex nodded, feeling a mix of pride and humility. They didn't think of themselves as a hero, only as someone who had recognized a need and acted. But it was clear that their presence had made a significant difference. As Alex walked home, they reflected on the lessons of the day. Life, they realized, was fragile. Small moments, seemingly insignificant decisions, could have a profound impact on outcomes. The morning had started with routine and calm, but it had quickly escalated into chaos, requiring courage, focus, and quick thinking. Alex understood that ordinary people were capable of extraordinary acts when circumstances demanded it, and that being aware, compassionate, and willing to act could save lives. The streets were quieter now, the city settling into the slower rhythm of evening. Streetlights glowed softly, and the distant hum of traffic was soothing. Alex noticed details they had missed earlier in the day. The way a small flower grew in the cracks of the sidewalk, the gentle flicker of a window light, the quiet determination of people going about their routines. It was a reminder that even amid chaos, life continued, full of small, beautiful moments. Reaching their apartment, Alex unlocked the door and stepped inside. The familiar space felt comforting, a safe haven after the intensity of the day. They placed their bag on the table, removed their jacket, and sank into a chair. Their body ached, and their mind was buzzing with thoughts, but a sense of calm began to settle over them. They knew they had done everything possible in the situation, and that the professionals would now ensure that everyone was fully safe. As Alex reflected, they thought about the importance of community. Emergencies didn't happen in isolation. The responders, the young people, the people they had passed in the streets, all had played a role, directly or indirectly. Alex realized that every act of awareness, every small gesture of help or guidance contributed to safety and survival. It wasn't just about one person acting. It was about everyone staying attentive, compassionate, and ready to help. That night, Alex couldn't sleep immediately. Their mind replayed the events, not in a fearful way, but with a sense of clarity and understanding. They thought about the obstacles they had overcome, the decisions they had made, and the ways in which calmness and careful thinking had helped them navigate the crisis. It was a vivid reminder that preparation, observation, and quick action were crucial in emergencies, and that ordinary people could rise to the occasion when needed. In the quiet hours of the night, Alex made a small plan for the future. They thought about taking first aid classes, learning more about emergency response, and finding ways to be more prepared for unexpected situations. The day had shown them that preparedness wasn't just about physical skills, but also about mental strength, emotional control, and the willingness to step forward when others needed help. These were lessons Alex wanted to carry forward, not just for themselves, but for the people around them. The next morning, Alex woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. The events of the previous day were still fresh in their mind, but instead of fear or anxiety, there was determination. They wanted to use their experience to make a difference, to help others be ready, and to continue cultivating awareness and resilience. Breakfast was quiet, but the sunlight streaming through the window felt brighter, warmer, and more promising. At work, Alex shared a careful version of the story with a trusted colleague, emphasizing the importance of staying alert and helping others in times of need. They discussed small safety measures, simple ways to assist others, and the significance of remaining calm under pressure. The colleague listened attentively, nodding in agreement, and the conversation left Alex feeling even more motivated to continue learning and preparing for emergencies. Throughout the week, Alex noticed the world differently. They observed people more closely, paid attention to small details, and thought about how even small acts of kindness and vigilance could make a huge difference. It wasn't about fear or paranoia. It was about awareness and responsibility. The memory of the emergency and their actions lingered, not as a source of stress, but as a guide for living more consciously and compassionately. One afternoon, Alex received a message from the young person they had helped. "I want to thank you again. You saved us. I will never forget your kindness and bravery." Alex smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. It wasn't about recognition or praise, but about knowing that their actions had genuinely helped someone in a critical moment. That thought stayed with them, a comforting reminder that courage, calmness, and quick thinking could make a real difference. Over time, Alex became more involved in community activities focused on safety and preparedness. They participated in workshops, shared their experiences with others, and encouraged friends and colleagues to be aware of their surroundings and ready to help in emergencies. Alex realized that the day's events had not only tested their courage, but had also sparked a commitment to help others, to contribute to a safer, more attentive community. Looking back on the emergency, Alex recognized that it had changed them in small but significant ways. They were more confident in their ability to act under pressure, more aware of the importance of observation and empathy, and more committed to helping others in practical, meaningful ways. The day that had begun like any other had become a turning point, a moment that would influence their actions, choices, and outlook on life for years to come. Even in the calm of their apartment that evening, Alex reflected on the lessons of the experience. Life could change in an instant. Emergencies could arise without warning, and ordinary people had the power to make extraordinary differences through presence, compassion, and decisive action. The events had been intense, exhausting, and challenging, but they had also been illuminating, showing Alex the depth of human resilience and the impact one person could have when they chose to act. As night fell, Alex felt a profound sense of gratitude for their own safety, for the safety of the young people, for the responders who had assisted, and for the lessons learned. The day had been a journey from calm routine to urgent crisis and back to a sense of resolution, and it had left Alex stronger, wiser, and more aware. They understood now that life's challenges were not just obstacles, but opportunities to grow, to help, and to show courage and compassion when it mattered most. Sitting by the window, Alex watched the city lights shimmer, reflecting on the events and the people involved. The memories of the emergency were vivid, but instead of fear, there was understanding and clarity. They had faced a moment of crisis, acted decisively, and witnessed the power of quick thinking and calmness. It was a turning point, a story they would carry with them forever, not as a source of anxiety, but as a source of strength and inspiration. By the end of the evening, Alex finally felt truly at peace. The city outside was quiet, the streets still glowing with gentle light, and the sense of urgency that had dominated the day was gone. Alex knew that emergencies could happen again, but they also knew that with awareness, preparation, and compassion, they could face whatever came next. The day had tested them, taught them, and changed them, and Alex was ready to face the future with courage, calmness, and a commitment to helping others whenever needed. The days following the emergency were quiet but reflective for Alex. After the intensity of the past week, life seemed calmer, almost ordinary. Yet, Alex knew that the events would not fade from memory. They lingered like a shadow at the edge of consciousness, reminding Alex of the fragility of life and the importance of being alert, aware, and prepared for the unexpected. The city went about its usual rhythm, but for Alex, everything felt a little different. Streets, people, and even small sounds seemed more vivid, each carrying the potential for both ordinary and extraordinary moments. Alex spent time thinking about the young people they had helped. They were safe now, and that brought Alex a deep sense of relief. But it was not just relief, it was also gratitude. Gratitude for their own ability to act, for the skills and instincts that had guided them, and for the presence of professional responders who had joined at the right time. Alex realized how interconnected life could be. The quick action of one person, combined with the preparedness of others, could completely change outcomes in moments of crisis. Returning to work after the emergency, Alex noticed small but meaningful differences in perspective. Colleagues seemed more approachable, more willing to share concerns or ask for advice. The simple acts of communication and awareness that had been so crucial during the emergency now seemed valuable in everyday life. Alex began paying closer attention to the little things, the way people moved, the way they interacted, the signs of discomfort or urgency that might go unnoticed by most. These were the skills that had helped during the crisis, and they were just as useful in ordinary life. Alex also began keeping a small notebook, not for work tasks, but for reflections, observations, and lessons learned. Each entry was a reminder of the day's events, the choices made, and the moments of courage and clarity that had made a difference. Writing helped Alex process the experience, turning intense memories into insights. It was a way to ensure that the lessons would not be forgotten and that they could continue to grow from the experience. The memory of the emergency had a lasting emotional impact. At first, Alex had felt exhaustion and lingering tension, the kind that came from adrenaline and worry. But over time, these feelings transformed into something more meaningful. Alex understood that moments of crisis were not only tests of courage, but also opportunities for reflection, growth, and connection. Every challenge faced, every problem solved became part of a larger story, a story of resilience, empathy, and the ability to act when it mattered most. In the evenings, Alex often took walks through the city, observing the familiar streets with a new perspective. They noticed how small acts could create ripples of effect. A kind word to a stranger, helping someone carry a heavy load, offering directions to someone who looked lost. These were small, seemingly ordinary actions, but Alex realized that they could make an enormous difference, especially in moments of need. The experience of the emergency had expanded their understanding of responsibility, empathy, and the power of presence. Alex also reached out to the young people they had helped. Through short messages and occasional visits, they checked on their well-being and offered support. The gratitude expressed in their words was heartfelt, but Alex felt that the real reward was in knowing that someone's life had been touched, perhaps even saved, by timely action. It was a reminder that courage and compassion were not abstract concepts. They were active, practical choices that could shape lives. At work, Alex began sharing lessons learned with colleagues, not as lectures but as conversations. They spoke about awareness, preparation, and calmness under pressure. They shared practical tips on staying safe, helping others, and noticing small details that could indicate a developing problem. These conversations were met with interest, sometimes curiosity, but always respect. Alex realized that the emergency had given them a voice, an opportunity to influence others positively and help create a more attentive, compassionate environment. Beyond work, Alex also explored ways to contribute to community safety more broadly. They joined workshops on first aid, emergency response, and safety awareness. They learned new skills, not for personal recognition, but to be better prepared for the future. Each class, each lesson reinforced the idea that ordinary people could take meaningful action when circumstances demanded it. Knowledge, awareness, and practice became tools for empowerment, tools that could be shared with friends, neighbors, and strangers alike. As the weeks passed, Alex noticed a subtle shift in themselves. They were more confident in their ability to handle stressful situations, more patient when faced with uncertainty, and more attuned to the needs of others. The day of the emergency had been a turning point, showing that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Alex felt proud, not in a boastful way, but in a quiet, personal understanding that they had contributed positively to someone else's life in a moment of critical need. Alex also thought about the unpredictability of life. The emergency had begun with a simple message, seemingly small and ordinary, but it had escalated into a life-altering event. This realization gave Alex a sense of humility. Life was full of unknowns, and no amount of planning could completely eliminate risk. But what mattered was presence of mind, empathy, and the willingness to respond. These qualities, Alex knew, were more important than any preparation alone. One evening, Alex sat by the window, watching the city lights shimmer in the quiet. Memories of the day returned, the fear, the adrenaline, the obstacles, and finally, the relief. Each memory was vivid, yet it no longer caused stress. Instead, it reminded Alex of the capacity for calm, decisive action and of the human ability to rise to challenges. They realized that the day's events had not only helped others, but had also shaped them profoundly, teaching lessons that would remain for a lifetime. Alex also noticed how small gestures of kindness could ripple outward. The young people they had helped expressed gratitude not only to Alex, but also to the responders, neighbors, and even strangers who had indirectly contributed. Alex reflected on this interconnectedness, and understood that even minor acts of awareness and compassion could create a network of support that made emergencies more manageable. It was a lesson in community, responsibility, and the impact of simple, thoughtful actions. In the weeks that followed, Alex occasionally returned to the streets where the emergency had unfolded, not out of obligation, but to observe, reflect, and ensure awareness. They paid attention to details that had been critical: narrow alleys, uneven pavements, potential hazards, and thought about how future situations might be handled more efficiently. This wasn't obsession but mindfulness, a conscious effort to learn, grow, and be prepared for the unpredictable moments that life could bring. As time passed, Alex began to share their story more broadly, always with respect for privacy and safety. They spoke at local community events, sharing lessons about observation, calmness, and the importance of being ready to help others. Their story inspired others to take small but meaningful steps to prepare, to notice their surroundings, and to act when needed. Alex realized that personal experience, when shared responsibly, could create a ripple effect of positive change in the community. Alex also reflected on personal growth. The emergency had been exhausting, frightening, and intense, yet it had also been empowering. They had discovered strengths they didn't know they possessed, learned to navigate fear with calm, and realized that courage was an everyday choice, not just a heroic act in extreme situations. Each day after the emergency reinforced these lessons, helping Alex grow into a more confident, empathetic, and prepared individual. Even simple moments, like sitting with a cup of tea, observing the city from their apartment window, or walking through familiar streets, now carried deeper meaning. Alex saw life as a balance between routine and unpredictability, between calm and urgency. They understood that ordinary people could rise to extraordinary challenges with presence, awareness, and compassion. Every interaction, every decision, no matter how small, had the potential to matter. Looking back, Alex realized that the day of the emergency had been transformative. It had taught lessons about courage, empathy, preparedness, and the power of quick thinking. It had shown that life was unpredictable, that challenges could appear without warning, and that ordinary people could make a profound difference when they acted decisively and compassionately. The memory of the emergency was no longer just a recollection of fear and urgency. It was a source of strength, insight, and inspiration. Finally, Alex understood the importance of reflection. It wasn't enough to act in the moment. It was equally important to process experiences, learn from them, and share insights with others. Life's emergencies, whether big or small, were opportunities to grow, to help, and to make meaningful connections. Alex's journey had shown that courage, calmness, and empathy were not just traits, but active choices that could shape outcomes and create lasting impact. Sitting quietly one evening, Alex felt a profound sense of gratitude for safety, for the young people, for the responders, for the lessons learned, and for the strength to act when it mattered. The city outside shimmered with lights, calm and ordinary on the surface, yet full of possibilities beneath. Alex knew that emergencies could happen again, but they also knew that with awareness, preparation, and courage, they were ready to face whatever life brought. The day that had begun as ordinary had become extraordinary, leaving Alex stronger, wiser, and inspired to live with purpose, empathy, and readiness for the unexpected.